All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. As we're in the midst of the final weekend of the 2023 Major League Baseball regular season, we are set to bid farewell to some legends of the game. And on this one, I want to focus on Detroit Tigers designated hitter Miguel Cabrera. Now, Cabrera is wrapping up his 21st MLB season, and he'll be remembered as one of the greatest hitters that the game has ever seen. You're talking about a guy who is a two-time American League MVP, which included him hitting for the Triple Crown in 2012. You're talking about a guy, a 306 career hitter, 3,173 career hits, set which is 17th all time, 511 home runs. He came into play today with 624 doubles, got two more tonight against the Cleveland Guardians, and now he has gone past the great Henry Aaron for 13th place all time in that category. Now, Cabrera has come a very long way from being that skinny kid, that skinny 20-year-old kid out of Venezuela that made a name for himself in the 2003 World Series when he hit that home run off of Roger Clemens to help the then Florida Marlins defeat the New York Yankees. Now, like I've said before, and I've talked about this on previous podcasts, Cabrera should be revered and respected because number one, it's going to be a long time before we see somebody else in Major League Baseball have 500 career home runs. And then also, it's going to be a very long time before we see somebody get to 3,000 hits. And you can thank analytics for that. As you know, these are tremendous accomplishments and feats, and either one of them, for the most part, was kind of like the open door, if you will, to get to Cooperstown. Several things, you think about it. 300 wins as a pitcher, 3,000 strikeouts as a pitcher, 500 home runs, 300 hits. Those are categories that once you hit those marks, you're basically there. And obviously, everybody knows that Miggy's going to be there. And of course, I know that there's going to be a writer or two that votes against him. Why, I don't know. But nonetheless, this guy's a first ballot Hall of Famer. And, speaking of Cabrera's play, for me, one of the questions is going to be where does he rank among the great hitters in Detroit Tigers franchise history? I know he played several years with the Florida Marlins before going to Detroit. And obviously, he spent the bulk of his career in Motown. But, you think about the Tigers, and obviously, this franchise has fallen on some hard times in recent years. But nonetheless, they've had some great hitters over the years. Ty Cobb, Al Kaline, Lou Whitaker, Alan Trammell. You think about Hank Greenberg, Norm Cash. All of those guys, great players. And Miguel Cabrera, he's going to be in that mix because for him to have done what he did is not easy. And you think about it. I mean, we've had some great power hitters over the years, but we've also had power hitters that hit for average. And that's a small group of players, if you will. And a guy to spend more than 20 years in the big leagues, to have a batting average north of 300 for his career. And for me, I think what did it for me to make me a believer. I mean, he was always a good player. Don't get me wrong, but I think that 2012 season when he hit for the Triple Crown. I mean, you go back to Miggy's prime years with the Tigers. 2009, he hit 324. 2010, he hit 328. 2011, he hit 344. And then that Triple Crown year, 330 batting average, 44 runs batted in, 139, pardon me, 44 home runs with 139 runs batted in. He also had 40 doubles that year as well. And then he followed that up. He led the American League in batting once again in 2013 at 348. Barely missed out on the Triple Crown, and that was because of the exploits of Josh Hamilton with the Texas Rangers. But even that year, Miggy still had 44 home runs and 137 runs batted in. And as the home run totals started to decline slightly, in the later years, he was still a guy throughout the mid 2010s that still hit above 300. And even going back to 2018, he hit 299. I know he only played in 38 games that year. But nonetheless, I mean, this guy in his prime was a tremendous contact hitter who could spray it to all parts of the park. I mean, this guy had no problem hitting the gaps, hitting doubles down the line, and of course, going yard as well. And I think fans will always, remember him for that. Now, it's not just about the Detroit Tigers when you think about Miguel Cabrera. Cabrera is a native of Venezuela. And if you follow the history of baseball, the country of Venezuela has produced some tremendous MLB players. We still have some tremendous MLB players coming out of that country. Most notably, in the current game of baseball, is one Ronald Acuna Jr. of the Atlanta Braves. But when you think about some of the greats over the years, and Dave Concepcion, Omar Vizquel, Johan Santana, Felix Hernandez. These are just a few of them. I mean, you've had tremendous players at every position come out of Venezuela and make a big time impact at MLB. But Cabrera is definitely in that pantheon, and I think he's going to be a guy that obviously he's respected in that country. Obviously, he's respected in the U.S. Obviously, he's respected in Detroit. And at the end of the day, I'm not trying to sound like a broken record, but he was one of the best to have ever done it. So the next stop for Cabrera, he's got a front office job lined up with the Detroit Tigers as an advisor, and then we're going to hear his name get called for Cooperstown in 2029. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's only been one unanimous player to get 100% of the ballots. That was Mariano Rivera. There have been plenty of others that have been more than deserving of it. And I think Miguel Cabrera gets in on the first try. That's a no-brainer. I mean, if he doesn't get at least 90% of the vote, there's a problem because whoever is doing the voting clearly did not watch the game of baseball, and more importantly, did not watch Miguel Cabrera play. High impact player, one of the better offensive players of his era. This was a guy that made life tough for the opposing pitchers. I mean, there was a thing. Some guys have a certain hot zone. With Miggy, I mean, his hot zone was all over the place because you couldn't pitch him outside because if you did, he knew how to go the other way with it. If you pitched him inside, he would make something of it. And of course, if you left it over the plate, it was a souvenir for the fans in the outfield bleachers. But when it's all said and done, Miguel Cabrera was one of the best to have ever done it. He's going out with a bang. He was 3 for 4 tonight as the Tigers fell to Cleveland. But nonetheless, he still got two of his vintage doubles. And I think, at the end of the day, he's probably going to go out there and try to give the fans in Motown a final show this weekend as the baseball world bids farewell to one of the best to have ever done it. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. Now, I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now, you can check it out, drop a line, and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So, once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I am signing off. And I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.